Those of you that watch my content regularly will know that President Cyril Ramaphosa made a couple of comments a few days ago where he spoke about the DA and the Auditor-General's reports and how the DA have the only municipalities and metros in the country that consistently get these clean audits from the Auditor-General. This led to a meltdown amongst political parties in the country, as well as just supporters of the ANC, effectively saying, "What the hell is this man doing? Like, he's handing the DA the victory on a silver platter." If anything, people were starting to call for Ramaphosa to be recalled. Now, since then, the ANC has sort of gone into lockdown mode. I think mainly because the ANC is desperate to preserve some kind of stability. They need to show the country that they're stronger than ever before. They need to show the country that they're more united than ever before. And they can't afford right now to start having massive fights among themselves. And of course, the ANC, they're also not stupid. They know that Cyril Ramaphosa currently has an incredibly bad favorability rating among South Africans. But they also know that his favorability ratings among South Africans are far higher than anyone else in the ANC. And this is a significant problem for the ANC. This is why you have people like Fikile Mbalula consistently coming out trying to defend Ramaphosa, because they all know that Ramaphosa has to step down. I believe it's in 2028. He can probably remain as the president of the ANC, but he can't remain as the president of the country. Our constitution does not allow for that. So the problem that they have is there's no one to take his place. When you actually look at the polls and you actually look at the opinion polls on this, Paul Mashatile has a terrible, terrible favorable rating among ANC voters. Fikile Mbalula, non-existent. You have Gwedi Mantashe, non-existent. Pandor, people were mentioning Naledi Pandor. She has no credibility within the ANC voter base. So no matter where you turn, when Cyril Ramaphosa steps down as leader of the ANC, they have no one to replace him with. Nelson Mandela at Thabo Mbeki was very popular. Thabo Mbeki was replaced by Zuma, who was very popular. Zuma was replaced by Ramaphosa, who was popular because people thought that he would be better. There's no one for Ramaphosa. The ANC dropped the ball on setting up the next leaders of the ANC. So I think the ANC already knows that things are starting to melt down, but there's not much that they can do. Now, of course, the president did come out in the meantime and say that no, people need to understand. He wasn't speaking about the DA being better at governing. That's not at all what he said. He meant just that they're good at getting clean audits. But of course, clean audits don't mean clean streets, even though time and time again, the Western Cape and Cape Town specifically wins awards worldwide for being one of the greatest cities on earth because the DA runs it. The Western Cape is the only province that actually works in this country. Now, let's just quickly speak about the very racist political parties and people in this country that like to sort of hide the beaver, I guess you could say, with this country's incredibly bad government, where they'll go, "Oh, the only reason you're saying that is because you've never been to Khayelitsha or Khayelitsha. The government or the DA only spends money on the rich areas. It doesn't spend any money on the poor areas." But if you actually, and I drilled into their actual budget, by the way, but if you go into the budget for the last 10 years of the Western Cape, you find consistently that on every single line item, more than 70% of those line items are spent in poor areas. The problem that the DA faces is that there's too many poor areas. And the real problem the DA faces is local government is largely useless. Local government can provide good services and they can ensure that the street lamps are fixed, right? They can clean the streets to some extent. But they can't enact real change because South Africa's constitution was modeled after the American Constitution with the idea of a federalized system. A federalized system would give the power to provinces and remove the power from the national government, to where the national government can set the baseline in the form of the Constitution. So, national government can say, you cannot discriminate based on race. That would be the bar, the minimum. So no province can pass laws that discriminate on people based on their race. From there, governments can do whatever they want as long as they don't discriminate based on race. Right? So that's the whole point behind a federal system. National government has very little power over what the provinces do. The provinces have more power, and then towns have the most power. But then, in order to have that, you need to be able to generate your own money. The problem in South Africa is Cape Town alone contributes over 300 billion, I think it's almost over 400 billion rand every single year to the national fiscus, right? That's the money that we pay to the national government. The national government then, for their part, gives back to the city of Cape Town about 80 billion rand that they get to spend on all of these poor areas and the city as a whole. This leads to a problem. I don't have the money to really spend the amount of money that would be required. If I had my full 300 billion, I could probably fix everyone's problems in this city, and I could make this city truly into a paradise. The problem is I lose most of my money to the national government. The national government gives me a payment back, right, of what I actually gave to them, and then I have to do all of this work. The DA can't create jobs because they don't have control over the economic policy of the country. Therefore, they have no control over the economic policy of the province. The DA can't fix unemployment because they have no control over the economic policies of this country. Therefore, they have no control over the economic policies of this province because provinces don't have the freedom to implement their own economic strategies, right? The DA can't fix homelessness in this country because, again, they have no control over the economic policies of this country. Therefore, they have no control over the economic circumstance of this province. Time and again, I think local government is one of the biggest scams in the country, and it's one of the reasons we're seeing fees and levies as high as they are in the Western Cape. And look, I live here. I lived in the north. I lived in Polokwane. I lived in Pretoria, or Tshwane nowadays. And I now live in Cape Town. I can tell you the difference is stark. Stark. You would much rather live in Cape Town than ever set foot anywhere in the north of the country. That being said, it's expensive as hell. Not the food. The food isn't expensive. Not living here, doing things. All of that's cheap. Going to a restaurant, same price as what you would pay in the north, right? So people make a big deal out of that. Like, none of that. It's the fees and the levies. It is so expensive. Electricity has so many fees. Your municipal bill has so many fees. The only reason I don't like paying it because I already don't have that much money. I'm not a rich YouTuber. You know, I don't have that much money. And what little money I have, having to pay all of these fees and levies, that's not great. The reason I don't mind it as much is I can actually see them doing the work. Right, I can drive through the townships here, in my area at least, and I notice that those townships are clean. Those townships are taken care of. They're safe. The police is there. The police presence is massive. I can go to the beach and see them cleaning up the beach every single day. I can see the money at work. Would I prefer if that money didn't come from me for basically a second tax so that the province or the city can actually provide the services that they want? Sure, I would love that. Fundamentally, I think where the president of South Africa is and why the ANC is struggling is I think they know that their time is short. They're hopeful that this new roll call will fix the ANC. The ANC will suddenly start to provide services to the people in their municipalities, and then maybe that gets them back into the good graces of the people. Because they don't have a leader that they can rally behind. So they need to rally behind the idea of, look at what we've done. The issue with this is, even if they could manage to do it, most of these municipalities are so run down in this country that it would take 3 to 4, maybe 5 years for most of these municipalities to just get back to basic service delivery. Not even proper service delivery, just basic stuff that they would need to do. I remember living in Polokwane where we had 2 fire trucks, neither of which actually worked. That's the state of the country, as it were. So yeah, I would just like to point out that I don't think the ANC. I think the ANC has largely started to accept that their fate is sealed. They're just trying one last ditched effort to maybe get it back. I don't think it's going to happen, but we'll see, right? If you like what I do and you like the content that I make, please consider hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, and leaving a comment because it really does help. Massive shout out and thank you to all of the patrons and the YouTube channel members for continuously supporting this channel. Without your support, I would not be able to do what I do. So thank you so much. To become a member, hit the join button below this video or just the link in the description down below. As always, be good to each other, be kind to each other, and I will see all of you in the next one. A peace.